Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise and really deliver the insights you need for our rapidly changing world.
That's right.
And today, the sources you've given us, they paint a picture of truly unprecedented change happening in America. It feels like a seismic shift.
Yeah, touching everything. Global trade, right down to our own communities.
Exactly. Just look at the news hook you flagged. Proposed 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports, and then, wow, 30% on Chinese goods.
Yeah, staggering numbers.
We're talking a massive economic overhaul. The stated aim is reshaping manufacturing, boosting American wages.
But alongside that, you've got these plans for a nationwide mass deportation program. The sources mention potentially using military resources. That's a huge shift in border policy.
A dramatic tightening, yeah. And it doesn't stop there, does it?
Wow.
Your sources also point to this cabinet being assembled filled with what they're calling disruptors.
That's the term they use. Think Matt Gaetz, potentially Attorney General, expected to challenge the January 6th prosecutions.
Yeah.
Or Harmeet Dillon, tapped for the Civil Rights Division, looking to dismantle DEI policies and go after what's being called reverse discrimination.
And these aren't just routine appointments. They signal a real fundamental challenge to how government has operated.
Definitely. It's an ideological shift made manifest.
And the impact, it ripples way beyond the U.S., right? Globally, tensions seem to be really escalating. There were reports, for instance, that the outgoing administration okayed Ukraine using long-range U.S. missiles for deep strikes actually into Russia.
A significant step. And then you had the recent Israeli airstrikes on Iran. President Trump praised that operation, according to the sources.
But others, like Tucker Carlson, warned it could ignite an all-out war. So very different takes there.
And back home, the scrutiny on the Biden administration continues. These new details, alleged pseudonyms used by Joe Biden, Hunter Biden's legal issues, it keeps fueling those claims of a two-tier system of justice.
Okay, so from tariffs shaking up the economy to this cabinet of disruptors and a world really on edge, it feels like America's just barreling into a period of massive change.
Unprecedented is probably the right word.
All right, let's unpack all of this. Today, we're taking that deep dive into your collected sources. We want to explore this bold new direction the U.S. seems poised to take, the critical issues bubbling up, and these significant global shifts.
Yeah, our mission here is really to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from everything you've gathered, help you navigate this complex picture with, hopefully, some clear insights and maybe even a few surprising facts.
What's really striking, I think, is the sheer ambition. You look at the incoming administration's agenda detail in these notes. It's a very deliberate, almost systematic move to put America first.
In very tangible ways, yeah. Starting with the economy, the bedrock, but extending right into the structure of government itself. A key economic reshaping and government overhaul.
Okay, let's start with that economic focus because it's central. The administration seems to be prioritizing these really aggressive tariffs on foreign goods.
It's the headline strategy, almost.
Yeah. 25% import duties on goods from Canada and Mexico, and then hiking tariffs on Chinese imports up to 30%. Now, on the surface, the goal seems clear enough. Boost domestic manufacturing, raise American wages, improve living standards. That's the pitch.
Right.
But what does this actually mean for you listening right now and, well, for the global economy?
Well, it's definitely not just tinkering around the edges, is it? It's a calculated gamble, a big one, with potentially huge ripple effects.
Okay, how so?
So the aim is making made-in-America goods more competitive. But these tariffs, they could easily mean higher prices for consumers,
Now,
on everything from cars to electronics to clothes. As those import costs go up,
the cost gets passed on.
often, yes. And then there's the risk of retaliation, right? Other countries hitting back with their own tariffs. That would hurt American industries that rely on exports. Think agriculture, maybe technology.
Making their products more expensive overseas.
Exactly. Less competitive. And you mentioned China, if they respond by, say, devaluing their currency, the yuan, that makes their exports cheaper for everyone else. It could potentially cancel out some of our tariff impact, making it even harder for U.S. manufacturers. It's like a high-stakes chess game.
Every move has a countermove, with real consequences for jobs and prices.
Precisely. Consequences for your wallet and the job market.
And beyond trade, there are these other shifts planned, corporate and federal policies that could directly impact daily life.
Yeah, like the plan to end work from home for federal employees. The sources mention threats of dismissal for not complying.
A very clear push for everyone back in the office. What's the thinking there, according to the sources?
It seems driven by a view that it restores efficiency, maybe accountability in the federal workforce, a return to traditional work structures.
And then there's this call for corporations to stop quarterly reporting, move to 6 monthly reports instead. That sounds less dramatic, but what's the idea?
Well, some investors actually support this. The argument, as reflected in the notes, is that quarterly reports can push companies to focus too much on short-term profits, maybe at the expense of long-term health.
So 6 monthly reports might encourage more strategic thinking, longer-term growth.
That's the hope, yeah. More stable investments, perhaps a healthier economy overall, and it connects to this wider push for what they're calling economic transparency.
Ah, yes, the idea of exposing hidden data from the previous administration.
Exactly. Trying to present, an unvarnished picture of the nation's finances. Rebuild trust, maybe set a new baseline for how things are measured.
Okay, so a major economic reshaping. But what about the government itself? The bureaucracy? You mentioned the disruptors in the cabinet.
Right. The sources show a deliberate strategy here, seemingly aimed at dismantling what's perceived as an entrenched bureaucracy, and it starts with these appointments.
They're not picked for continuity, are they?
Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
The sources emphasize ideological alignment, loyalty, and having a specific agenda. Take Matt Gaetz for Attorney General.
Known for being very critical of the January 6th prosecutions.
Exactly. He's seen by supporters, according to these notes, as someone to, quote, clean up a corrupt system. And there's an expectation he might push for pardons for January 6th defendants.
Okay. And Harmeet Dhillon at the Civil Rights Division.
The intention there, based on the sources, is clear. Reverse diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI policies, and actually prosecute companies for what they term reverse discrimination.
And they see a legal opening for that.
Apparently so. The sources mention the Supreme Court's ruling against race-based college admissions as providing sort of legal foundation for this push, aiming, in their view, to create a level playing field.
It's clear the plan is to shake up the system fundamentally from the inside.
Absolutely. And it continues elsewhere. Kash Patel nominated for FBI director. His mission, as described, is revealing hidden secrets, holding employees accountable, and combating this idea of the deep state.
That term for unelected officials supposedly manipulating policy behind the scenes.
Right, that whole narrative. Then you have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for Health and Human Services Secretary.
What's his focus expected to be?
Revising health agencies, a thorough review of vaccine safety, tackling chemicals and pollutants. This aligns with his past statements, including, as the sources note, his belief that the COVID virus came from a U.S. bioweapons lab program.
These are really significant shifts. Health, justice, areas that affect everyone.
Hugely. And to tackle perceived government waste, there's this new advisory body mentioned, the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE.
Led by Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk.
That's what the sources say. Their mandate: find massive waste, fraud, and abuse, cut contractor fees, and maybe even, quote, delete outright entire federal agencies.
Wow. Delete agencies. That's more than just trimming budgets.
It signals a very radical intent to reshape the federal government, not just tweak it. Think about the implications for federal workers, for the services provided, too. America's stance at home and abroad.
Okay, let's shift focus now. Look at America's stance both here at home and on the world stage. Domestically, securing the border is framed as, well, an urgent priority.
Top of the list, it seems.
The administration confirms plans, according to these notes, to declare a national emergency, use military resources, even for a mass deportation program targeting undocumented immigrants.
That's a major mobilization.
And it includes reinstating travel bans from certain countries, closing the border to asylum seekers, and moving to end birthright citizenship for children born here to undocumented parents.
That last one, ending birthright citizenship, would be a massive legal and constitutional fight.
Huge. So this whole package is a really dramatic tightening of border policy.
And it's presented, very clearly in the sources, as a direct response to Republican claims of a border crisis of historic proportions under the previous administration.
Citing record migrant numbers as a security threat.
Right. So these actions are framed as necessary steps to restore control, restore national sovereignty.
Right.
But for you listening, this isn't just abstract policy.
No, it means potential changes in communities, workplaces, the actual demographics of the country.
Absolutely, and globally. The administration seems set to redefine America's role. There's some provocative rhetoric mentioned in the sources.
Challenging that traditional rules-based order.
Exactly. The system of international laws and norms we've mostly followed since World War II. Comments about potentially annexing Canada or reclaiming the Panama Canal.
Now, are those serious proposals or just rhetoric?
It's hard to say for sure from the notes. Could be rhetorical, but they signal a departure, a move away from established ideas about sovereignty, about multilateralism. It points towards a more unilateral, maybe nationalist foreign policy.
Does this connect to concerns about the U.S. dollar?
Yes, the sources highlight that. Deep concern about the dollar's waning power as the world's reserve currency. They see its decline as a major national threat.
Losing that status would have big economic consequences, wouldn't it?
Oh, definitely. Impacting import costs, the stability of U.S. investments, global finance. So there's this clear emphasis on reversing perceived national decline, the whole Make America Great Again theme, translating into a more transactional approach globally.
And the tough stance on China fits into this.
Very much so. Escalating tariffs, as we discussed, and the sources mention the U.S. preparing for potential conflict by 2025. Ramaswamy even suggests linking U.S. defense of Taiwan to achieving American semiconductor independence.
Using a security commitment to gain leverage on a critical economic issue.
Precisely. Securing vital supply chains while simultaneously using a strategic alliance as a bargaining chip. It's a very different way of looking at foreign relations. 3. Navigating geopolitical conflicts and domestic critiques.
Okay, let's turn to these intensifying global conflicts. They can really complicate this whole global reset idea. Ukraine, for instance.
Yeah, the situation there looks increasingly volatile.
One big development reported is the outgoing Biden administration apparently authorizing Ukraine to use U.S. missiles for long-range strikes deep inside Russia, Kursk region specifically mentioned.
And this reportedly followed Ukrainian claims of North Korean soldiers aiding Russia, about 10,000 of them.
That feels like a major escalation point, doesn't it?
It absolutely is. The sources note Russian officials warning this could potentially lead to nuclear conflict. Russia has already revised its nuclear doctrine.
How are supporters of the incoming administration viewing this decision?
Well, according to the sources, many see it as reckless. Maybe an attempt by the outgoing team to make any future peace deal harder to achieve, almost locking things in.
And meanwhile, you have reports of growing Western fatigue with the war, and the Ukrainian army weakening, losing ground.
Yes, despite continued Western arms supplies. And President Zelensky, for his part, is still pleading for more aid, like at least 10 Patriot missile systems from the U.S. He's also expressing deep skepticism about any ceasefire offers from Putin, calling them publicity stunts.
It really paints a grim, protracted picture.
Very much so. An escalating conflict with no clear end in sight.
And it's worth remembering the domestic angle here, too. That vote back in December 2023.
Right, when Senate Republicans blocked that huge $110 billion funding package for Ukraine and Israel.
Demanding changes to U.S. border policy first. It shows how deeply divided America itself is on funding these foreign conflicts. Domestic politics bleeding into international relations.
Definitely. And the Middle East is another flashpoint seeing major escalation. Those June 2025 Israeli airstrikes.
Targeting Iranian nuclear facilities and military sites.
Yes, followed by Iran launching its own drone and missile response. The U.S. State Department denied involvement, but President Trump, according to the notes, praised the Israeli operation.
But not everyone agreed with that stance.
No. Figures like Tucker Carlson and Scott Ritter are cited, accusing Trump of complicity, even suggesting the nuclear talks were just a ruse. They warned of all-out war. So you see differing views even within broadly conservative or non-interventionist circles.
Very complex dynamics.
Yeah.
Okay, finally, let's touch on these ongoing domestic critiques. The allegations of a two-tier justice system, the deep state influence, they haven't gone away.
No. The sources show they're still very much alive. Investigations into the Biden family's dealings continue.
Like those newly released photos and emails, reportedly showing Hunter and Joe Biden meeting Chinese officials back in 2013.
Yes, which critics claim contradict Joe Biden's past denials of involvement in his son's business. Plus, the claims about Joe Biden using pseudonyms like Robert L. Peters while VP.
And allegations of false accounts from the White House about classified documents.
All of it feeds into this narrative of institutional distrust, a feeling that the system isn't playing fair.
And Hunter Biden's actual conviction,
Yeah.
June 2025, for gun law violations.
Right. And Joe Biden pledging not to pardon him. But critics, including Donald Trump and some legal analysts mentioned in the sources, frame this as selective prosecution.
Suggesting it's based on political views, highlighting perceived inconsistencies.
Exactly. It becomes less about the specific case and more about this broader concern. Is justice truly equal under the law?
This scrutiny also extends into public health matters, particularly COVID-19.
Yeah, there's mention of a congressional report concluding COVID likely originated from a Wuhan lab, and serious allegations that both Chinese and U.S. government agencies and some scientists sought to cover up facts.
And this connects to broader critiques, things like medical fascism.
That term is used in some sources, yeah. Describing perceived government overreach in public health, it fuels questions about vaccine safety, too.
The sources mention a bombshell new study.
Yes, suggesting, and this is a claim from the sources, that fully vaccinated individuals could lose 25 years of life expectancy, and citing increased mortality rates for vaccinated people in 2022 versus 2021. These are obviously very charged claims and a complex debate.
Extremely charged. And some of the opinionated sources you included use very strong language to frame these broader critiques, don't they?
They certainly don't hold back. One source describes, and I'm quoting directly here so listeners understand the viewpoint presented, the woke-up psychopathic Democratic Party as driving the country into a ditch.
And lists things like,
Quote, censorship, witch hunts, the Gestapo FBI, a stupid money pit war, medical fascism, the wide-open border, race and gender hustles, state-sponsored riots, lawfare. That last term refers to using the legal system as a political weapon.
and this source also brings up George Soros.
Yes, mentioning his financial ties to numerous media organizations, which a conservative watchdog group alleges are part of his indoctrination efforts. Again, these are significant claims, often unverified, but they represent a powerful narrative challenging established institutions and media. Outro.
Okay, so putting it all together, what does this really mean? We've explored this landscape of just huge shifts coming.
Yeah, dramatic overhaul of economic policy, government bureaucracy, a much more nationalist approach to immigration and global affairs.
Plus, these escalating international conflicts and the ongoing intense domestic debates over justice, transparency, established narratives.
The sources really paint a picture of a nation bracing itself, bracing for profound change and challenging a lot of deep-seated assumptions about where it's headed.
It definitely raises a big question. If the stated aim is make America great again by essentially dismantling existing structures and challenging global norms.
What are the unforeseen consequences? What might arise for the average American, for the world, from such a sweeping disruption?
And here's where it gets really interesting for you to think about. How will these bold, sometimes disruptive actions ultimately reshape not just our nation, but maybe the very fabric of global stability, and crucially, the daily lives of citizens just trying to navigate this rapidly changing landscape?
That's the question that will undoubtedly define the coming years, isn't it?